Today's lesson will be about point of view. We will reread Zach's warning and discuss point of view. Point of view: the narrator's position in relation to how the story is told. In other words, the narrator's position on how the events in the story are described. It can also be said how the characters feel about or see certain events in the story. As we read today's story, we're going to be looking at the point of view of two characters, Zach and Zach's sister. So we're going to think about their point of view based on how they felt about the tsunami coming and its warning signs. Not only are we going to take a stand on their position and their point of view, but we're going to back it up with evidence from the text. So what I'm going to do is, as I'm reading the story, if the evidence supports Zach's sister, I'm going to highlight it yellow. If the evidence supports Zach, I will highlight it blue. That will help us as we're reading. It will also help you to complete the assignment. Zach's warning. During his summer vacation, Zach and his family took a morning stroll every day. They walked along the sea's edge looking for shells. One morning, Zach smiled to himself as he walked. He was thinking about his friends back home freezing in chilly England. As Zach sank into the warm sand, he gazed at the sea happily. Zach's stroll came to an abrupt end when he noticed something very unusual. He stopped suddenly and stared at the strange sight. The sea was bubbling up like a pot of boiling soup. Water was gushing away from the shore. Ships in the distance were dancing up and down. "We've got to get back to the hotel," Zach mumbled in disbelief. "Did you say something?" Zach's sister asked. "Yeah, there's a tsunami coming. We have got to leave in a hurry," Zach yelled. "Sure there is. Do you always have to be so dramatic?" Zach's sister moaned and stormed off in a different direction. "It's not my imagination," Zach insisted. "We've learned about tsunamis at school and we watched a video about them." Zach's sister and parents continued to walk and pick up the shells. As they continued walking, Zach grew more impatient. The waves seemed to be getting angrier as they pushed boats around. He knew they needed to hurry before things got worse. I'm going to highlight some evidence that supports how Zach felt about the tsunami coming. As we can see, I'm looking here, and you can see that he came to an abrupt end. He suddenly stopped and stared at the strange sight, so he had a feeling something was wrong. He was looking, and he could see the bubbling sea, and he said, "We've got to get out of this, back to the hotel." Then he said to them that he knows that there's a tsunami coming. We have got to hurry and leave. Now you can see that he's excited because he uses the word yells. So he knows that he's taking it serious. Now I'm going to look at what his sister says. His sister, on the other hand, she says in a sarcastic kind of way, "Sure there is. Do you always have to be so dramatic?" Now here's some of the evidence too. She moaned and stormed off in a different direction, showing that she didn't really believe that the tsunami was coming. And Zach replied with, "It's not my imagination." He's saying that he understands because he learned about tsunamis in school and he watched videos about them. Now let's see what his sister did. His sister continued to walk and pick up shells. So whereas Zach was growing impatient, his family just continued walking, including his sister. "I'm heading back to the hotel right now," Zach announced loudly. "I wish you would all come with me." "You might be right," said Zach's mom. "I'm getting scared. Let's go." Finally, Jack's parents decided to listen. They raced over to alert the lifeguards nearby. Zach explained what he saw and he knew about tsunamis. The lifeguards looked out and saw the frothing water. They thanked Zach and made an announcement. Then they helped people leave the beach. Zach and his family rushed back to their hotel. When they arrived a few minutes later, Zach hurried to tell the hotel manager about the danger. "Thanks. We'll alert people on the beach right away," she said as she ran off. Now in this section here, you can also tell that Zach is taking it serious. He said, "I'm heading back to the hotel right now," he announced loudly. "I wish you would all come." So this is a situation where Zach was willing to leave his family and run off even if they weren't going to come, because he knew and he had that feeling. So his point of view about the tsunami was very different from his sister and his family's. Zach and his family watched from the hotel lobby. They saw the manager calling and waving to people on the beach, who quickly started running toward the hotel. A few minutes later, the sea rushed inland. Monster waves pounded the shore, gobbling everything in sight. Thanks to Zach, everyone made it safely before disaster struck. Okay, now here is your assignment. First, you're going to take a look at this chart, which will be in your assignment in Teams, and you're going to think about Zach and Zach's sister's point of view about the tsunami and the warning signs for the tsunami. In your own words, right here, write down what you think Zach and his sister's point of view was, how they described it, how they felt about it, how they saw the events that were coming up. Then you're going to use evidence from the text, specific words. Do not just say he was scared or she didn't care. You need to give me the exact words that describes and backs up what you said on this section here. So that is your first assignment. Now, here is your second assignment. Your assignment number 2. You're going to go to Read 180 and go to the End 5 assessment. Look at question 25. Now, I will read the writing prompt. Imagine that your job is to design a new city. The city is in an area that sometimes has earthquakes. What kinds of problems might occur? What can you do to solve them? Write an essay explaining how you would design the city to keep people safe. Use information from the passages to support your ideas. Now listen carefully as I am going to change this writing prompt. If you write about earthquakes, I know that you really did not listen or watch my video. So what I'm going to do is cross out the earthquakes. Now I would like you to think about the topic that you chose for your research paper. You either chose hurricanes or tornado or a flood or a blizzard. Now, let's think about those 4 topics. I want you to make your writing prompt based on the topic that you wrote about. So, instead of writing about the city in an area that sometimes has earthquakes, you're going to write about the city in an area that sometimes has hurricanes or tornado or a flood or a blizzard, depending on what you wrote about in your research paper. And the information that you can use, you can use from what you learned from your topic. So I wanted to make it relevant to what you've been studying and reading about for the last 2 weeks. So now I want you to let's read this again. Imagine that your job is to design a city. The city is in an area that sometimes has blizzards, a flood, a tornado, or hurricanes. What kind of problems might occur for those things? What can you do to solve them? Write an essay to explain how you would design the city to keep people safe. Use information from the passages to support your ideas. All right, now as you can see, this says it needs to be an essay, which means it needs to be at least 2 paragraphs. So what I'm going to do is help you set up what should be in each paragraph. So if I look carefully back at the writing prompt, first it's telling me that I need to design a new city in an area where there are sometimes, remember we're not doing earthquakes, right? So we're going to fill in either I'll write it again, flood, or the hurricane, or the blizzard, or the tornado. So you need to think about a city, let me see here, a city where that natural disaster might occur. And you also need to discuss the problems. So I will write that in here. Describe the city, the job, and the possible problems. Now, in our last paragraph, we're going to write about how we are going to solve those problems. So down here, I'm going to write how to solve those problems. And we're going to using your ideas for your new city. So it can be any idea that you've come up with. It could be an idea that you've read about before that you want to add your own flair or thoughts to, or it could be a brand new idea. Okay, so you should have at least 2 paragraphs in question number 25. So now you know you have 2 assignments. Please make sure you complete those. When you are done with question 25, you can then submit the test, making sure that you have no brown boxes at the bottom. If you look down at the bottom of this assignment, the brown boxes mean they are not complete. The blue boxes in the Read 180 assessment says those questions are complete. If you have any questions, you can check with Miss L or myself in the morning.